Ignite to impact.
How does giving back help you? Today, we're going to talk about the ways to make a positive impact on someone or something and help yourself at the same time. How are you? I'm Dr. Geneva, and welcome to Ignite to Impact Live, the best place for conversations that really inspire a generation of leaders at any age. I'm so glad you're with me today, and I am so excited about our guest and the conversation. Many of you know I've been in the field about the business of social impact, creating positive difference in the lives of others. And what's been so joyful about that experience is that I've run into thousands of people who are making a difference, who are making this world a better place to live in, their neighborhoods, their community, all of it having an impact on children or on schools and neighborhoods, on the homeless, on young people who are looking for a job, anything and everything that could benefit from making a difference. I know folks who have done that. You probably do too, but you may also be wondering, how could you increase your ways of making an impact and feel good about it at the same time? So I've got a terrific guest for you today, and let me introduce him to you right now. Brandon Parks, who's the CEO and founder of Parks Philanthropy, a social impact firm dedicated to equipping nonprofits, corporations, and individuals with ideas, resources, and support they need to positively impact the world. So you see, he's all about it, and he's gathered together everything that you would need to make a difference. He was previously the senior consultant for Bridge Philanthropic Consultants, the nation's largest African-American fundraising firm, in which he supported a variety of clients like the Apollo Theater, 100 Black Men, and Global Communities Charter School. And prior to that, he was the nonprofit engagement manager at Carrot Club, an AI, that's artificial intelligence, I believe, an AI tech company that connects, now listen to this, that connects young professionals to leadership roles on nonprofit boards. That's such a need. And so in the work that he's done, he's supported over 350 organizations like Teach for America, UNICEF, Make-A-Wish, the Museum of Modern Art, in various capacity building initiatives and ways to make a great social impact. And he's also worked in corporate philanthropy at Morgan Stanley and Toyota. And so let me tell you, he's also been named as Cause Artist 20 Inspiring African Americans Impacting the World Through Social Impact and Social Innovation. Now you see why I wanted him here to chat with us. And finally, let me let you know that his passion is to empower anyone looking to make a positive social impact. Okay, let's bring on Brandon and say good morning to you. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm great, Dr. Geneva. Thank you for having me today, and thank you for that amazing intro. Greatly appreciate it.
Hey, we just talked about what you do. That's all. We just let everybody know. I want to start off with a question that I get asked often. And, we use the word social impact a lot, particularly in these days and times when so much is going on in our community. And many of us try to figure out what it is and how we can make a difference. I want you to define for us, help us understand what is it meant by social impact? What does that mean?
Definitely. And honestly, I feel like the definition of social impact really is contingent on that individual. The way that I kind of reflect what impact is how any individual really defines the change that they want to see in the world. Impact for you can be different for impact for me. Myself, I'm very much so humanitarian, really working towards just impacting organizations and individuals from marginalized communities that I identify with. For some other people, impact can be helping the environment or helping animals, for example. It really is all about what's in your heart and what you believe really is the change that you think you want to see in the world. And that's how each individual defines impact.
Wow. So it's very much what you feel, it's an individualized, tailored kind of thing.
Definitely. I feel like it's really customized to what you value, really customized to
Ah.
issues or just societal problems that you really identify with or that really kind of boil you up, for example. And I feel like impact is how you as an individual leverage yourself to really try to remedy those issues, remedy those problems, or really galvanize your colleagues, your friends, your family to really start going after these issues to ensure that they aren't happening anymore. So I really do feel that impact really is an individual type value, for example, and it really stems down to what that individual really sees that they want to change in the world or within their national or local community.
Mm-hmm. And so you said an important word, I thought, value, what you value. So how does someone take what they value? Let's say they value good schools. Okay, good schools for children in their neighborhoods, for example. How do you take that value that someone might have and translate it into action and impact?
Definitely. And I feel like that's not necessarily the easiest answer because even hypothetically, if an individual really sees like schools, for example, or wants to support schools, make an impact in that capacity, there really are a lot of different internal conversations that you really want to have to really define what that impact really is. Do you want to make an impact in the school systems in your local community? Do you want to make an impact on a larger scale, for example? And really, when you are defining impact, whether it's by working with nonprofit organizations that are doing the work within those communities, it's really time to identify not just an organization who has a really great mission, but an organization who has the internal structure and capacity to really carry out that programmatic work, really working with either an organization or a company that really embodies those values and isn't just doing it for show, for example, are really authentic within the way and the tactics that they really are trying to carry out that impact. And really ensuring that your impact is measurable, really wanting to ensure that there either are metrics in place or just different things in place that really show that, okay, you actually created that impact that you wanted to see, whether it's impacting a certain amount of students, impacting a certain amount of communities, really ensuring that the impact that you are trying to create is just driven by data and really result oriented to ensure that you're actually making the impact that you're setting yourself out to make.
There was some great stuff you dropped there because you talked not only about making sure that if you're working or want to work with an organization, that it has the structure and the capacity to be able to deliver, the expectations that you have. And you also talked about metrics and being able to measure and define what it is you're doing or want to do so you can tell whether or not there's impact.
Exactly. And I just feel like there's so many different, even just individuals and organizations who, really are wholehearted about the impact that they want to make and the change they want to make and really are mission driven and have a great mission and vision statement. But then when they are actually carrying out any programmatic work or volunteerism, they may not necessarily actually be making the impact they want to be making. You can be working with students per se through different education programs. And then if you're not actually doing surveys of just the data or the students' anecdotes, you may realize that, a student may be going through a program, but not actually seeing some sort of improvement in their skills or in sort of their education, for example. So by ensuring that you are having these metrics in place or really looking at the data of your impact, it really ensures that you are making the change you really want to see.
Yeah. And that is so That's such an important aspect, Brandon. And I know many folk who do volunteer, who spend their time with organizations, etc., don't often ask that question. That
Exactly.
is, help me see what the results are. Help me
Exactly.
figure out how I'm making a difference, how your organization is making a difference. So, how would somebody find that out? Is it through an annual report or just asking the questions? How do people, if they're working with an organization, how do they find out if in fact it's making a difference?
150%. I think you really hit the nail on the head when it's just asking the right questions and knowing what questions to really ask when you're working with an organization. Really looking to see, okay, what is your programmatic work? What are the constituents you're trying to help? Looking at different anecdotes or stories from the individuals that they are seeking to help, to hear from them what their thoughts are after either going through certain programs, for example, or the impact that the organization is really trying to make. Even on a more granular level, for example, really touching base with the leadership of the organization. Are these leaders, for example, that are really mission driven and align with the values of the organization that you want to be supporting their organization, for instance? So definitely by asking all these questions, for example, you can really hone in on not only an organization that really aligns with your vision and mission, but also an organization that has the infrastructure, the leadership, and just everything in place that can really drive and carry out that impact that you want to see when you are just giving your time and effort. And also kind of when you're working with nonprofit organizations, I feel like there's almost a misconception that you almost need to either be rich or have money to make an impact, for example, making charitable donations. But realistically, volunteerism is really one of the best ways to really support an organization, not only just volunteerism with direct service volunteerism, but pro bono services, and really leaning in on your insights and your intellect and your network to really support an organization with capacity building initiatives to really make sure that they are bigger and better in order to really carry out and expand the programmatic work that is aligning with that impact you want to see as well.
So it's not just the money that people, need to give, though we want people to, continue to invest with their treasure.
Definitely. But they're not mutually exclusive.
Right. And the time and the talent is just as valuable. So if you give of yourself and you share your skills, that is valuable as well.
100%. And also, so is awareness, even being able to galvanize your friends, your colleagues, your family around an organization or a mission that you really care about. That's also impactful. Really being able to share the good word of an organization or a mission that you really care about towards your different colleagues and friends and family, really are making sure that they then can be volunteering or supporting or giving charitable donations to that organization. And it really has a snowball effect on really supporting a lot of different organizations. It's really proven that honestly, peer-to-peer fundraising really is one of the most effective means of fundraising. People love to give towards organizations that their friends are a part of, that their family's supporting. So that's definitely a great means also of being able to make an impact outside of volunteering directly or even making a charitable donation directly as well.
Yes. So Brandon, you know a lot about this area. You just dropping such wonderful gems. I just love it. Just great. How did you get involved?
Yeah, no, great question. So it actually started from when I was younger. I actually used to go on a lot of volunteer trips with my church back in the day. And really from those volunteer trips, to really show me that I not only had the capacity of really making a change in my local community, but I also had the ability of galvanizing all of my friends and colleagues, for example, to really work together and to come together to really make an even bigger change. And from there, that really kind of catalyzed my just dedication to really wanting to work professionally in the social sector. Really loved just kind of making sure that I was a part of different community groups at school and college, for example, where I can really galvanize all of my colleagues towards certain missions that I really aligned with. That's kind of what started my career in the social sector, from working in nonprofit management for international humanitarian organizations, all the way to, like you mentioned, working in corporate philanthropy for companies like Morgan Stanley and Toyota. And just really dedicating myself to not only just supporting just the social sector, like I mentioned before, just really supporting communities that I really identify with, whether it's the LGBTQ community, the Black community, for example, really trying to leverage myself, my resources, and my network to really support these different organizations who really are doing such a great and innovative work on the ground. Because I'm a big believer that if you, what's the term? If you feed a man a fish, you can feed him for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, you can feed him forever.
A
So
lifetime, yes.
exactly. So I may not have all the answers when it comes to just solving all these societal problems, but I know there are a lot of different organizations who have really innovative approaches to doing so. So I'm here to really help amplify them and really help companies who are dedicated to leveraging their operations and their people and their skill sets of doing good to really help them advance their impact as well.
So what's the biggest lesson you've learned in your work in trying to create and help others create impact?
Yeah, so I'm really a big proponent of driving change through business. And one of the things that I've been able to really not only learn, but really own and understand throughout my professional career is that business and impact aren't mutually exclusive. I just feel like back in the day, I feel like social impact, corporate social responsibility, those are all things that companies thought were nice to have, for example. Doing good was nice to have. It's something that didn't necessarily even relate back to the ROI of the company when that simply isn't the case. Just companies who do just deploy a social impact strategy authentically, for example, just their employees have higher job satisfaction, their turnover rates are lower, employees are more engaged with brands and companies that really are doing good in their national and local communities, for example. And there is just that increased productivity and job satisfaction experience with employees whose companies do deploy employee volunteerism. And it really kind of just aligns with the topic of our conversation of feeling good by doing good, because I'm not even sure if you ever felt that rush after performing a good deed, but that sensation of helper's high, if you will, is produced when our brain is releasing endorphins after volunteering. So it's proven.
I love this. Wait a minute, I gotta stop you, because we gotta, what did you say? Helper's
high. Yep.
Ooh, so what is a helper's high?
Yeah, so it's produced when your brain releases like endorphins, like those feel-good chemicals in the brain after you're performing a good deed. So even after volunteering, just being altruistic, helping one of your neighbors or colleagues out, you actually have a release of more endorphins in your body, which shows that you can be feeling good by doing good.
I love it. I love it. Yes. Helpers high. Helpers high.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so honestly, volunteering and doing good may be selfive because it's all about self-care also when you are doing good.
That's right. It's interesting as I've worked, in my career and actually spend some time asking people why they do what they do. I love hearing the stories and how they talk about how they, they're doing good, how they're impacting and helping others, but they always come back to, and I feel good about it. Or how it makes me feel. And it's that, that double whammy that you can get, when you help someone, it comes back to you. It really does.
It's a win-win for everybody, Dr. Geneva.
That's right. It is. And so I know that you are about the business of getting as many folks into experiencing that feeling, that helper's high. And so I really want to, dive into that a little bit more. But before then, you dropped about one of my favorite topics about corporate philanthropy and corporate volunteerism and the relationship between business and impact. So I work with a number of small businesses. So, the corporate scene, got it, the employee work programs and being able to go to your HR department and say, I'm interested in doing something, volunteering, representing the company out in the community, all of that. If you're an entrepreneur or running a small business, what are some of the ways how can you, by running that small business, have an impact in the community?
Definitely. I feel like there's a myriad of ways that small businesses and entrepreneurs can also drive change through their companies and businesses. Myself, I can only speak personally, but I love working with vendors that are founded by just marginalized communities. I love working with just women-led companies, Black-led companies, for example, really working to support those companies also to really just create and empower more economic opportunities for individuals from these communities. In terms of just even our consultants and our staff, really just working with a diverse portfolio of different consultants, really just ensuring that we're not only driving change, but driving equity and inclusion when we are just really developing out our hiring practices for consultants and our practices for when we are working with different vendors or suppliers to really carry out our programmatic work. And then also, I mean, companies don't necessarily need to have just huge money and revenue in order to make charitable donations. Even just the smallest of donations or micro donations towards organizations that you really care about or align with kind of the core values of your company always can go a long way as well. So I feel like there are those different ways, for example, and really ensuring that, you know, if you are a small business, that means you either have a really great product or a service, and these may be a service or a product that you also can be leaning in for a cheaper price point for organizations or for leadership members from nonprofits, for example, to really just support the ecosystem in that capacity. So it's really kind of understanding that there's just so many different ways that you can make an impact outside of the more traditional ways, and really trying to figure out how you can leverage just your assets, you know, your people, your operations, for example, your brand, to really just drive that change in the way that you define impact.
So giving back is good for business.
Yep, 150%, 150%. Especially with this next day and age, with the millennials and Gen Z, just the majority of them would prefer to work for a socially responsible company, even if their pay salary is less than another company where they're getting paid more, but isn't socially responsible. So it really just shows that the next generation really does care about doing good and making a social impact. And businesses really have to understand that CSR and corporate social responsibility isn't just a nice to have now, but really is critical if you want to retain the next generation of talented workforce, and also being able to just, really drive change throughout your local and national communities as well.
Yeah. And so this relationship between, as you say, the helper's high, and creating this impact and small business and all of this, as you move throughout your career, and you're working very closely in philanthropy and what's happening, what are some of the changes that you're seeing in giving patterns, whether that be in terms of dollars or time, talent, treasures? What are some of the differences, the trends that are happening in the field?
Yeah, so I'd say one of the has its pros and cons of this trend, but I feel like charitable giving has become much more rigid, if you will. Individuals really are looking to see that data behind the impact that a lot of organizations are making to ensure that their dollars are really going a long way. That's kind of similar to our conversation before. You can have a really great mission of an organization and really doing great work, but if the data reflects that you aren't actually making the impact that you're claiming you want to make, then I need to move on to another organization where those dollars are actually directly impacting the constituents I'm looking to impact. So I feel like when it comes to grant making, just really grantors, funders, foundations, for example, are really being just much more strict in their evaluation process of organizations they want to support. Really trying to understand much more so about like their leadership. Is the leadership involved in an organization really at a place where they can really lead an organization in a positive direction? Is the strategy of this organization really in alignment with the way that they're working and really effective, for example? And naturally, do they have those metrics in place that really show that they are making the impact day after day, year after year, for example, and really being able to carry out their programmatic work more effectively? So in that way, I feel like a lot of these organizations that are really having a strong impact really are getting funded properly. But also I feel like it almost causes, not an issue, but it leaves these smaller organizations almost with less resources, for example, to really try to understand how they can really get these metrics in place. How can they really ensure that they are communicating the programmatic work effectively and properly and really making that impact? And that's kind of what Parks Philanthropy really seeks out to do, really supporting these smaller, medium-sized organizations with the resources they really need to really just drive their impact forward.
Yes. And, I just can't emphasize enough how, your conversation about the importance of being able to describe, measure, talk about impact is so important, particularly these days. And so, one of the ways that we can describe it is so many organizations are really good at counting the numbers. So how many meals were served, how many children were seen, and the numbers. Now, philanthropy, foundations, and those who want to give of their time or treasure want to know, okay, those numbers are good, but how did you change lives?
Exactly.
So is that senior who you delivered a meal to, and we count the numbers of meals, but is that senior now able to live independently, to be able to be healthy,
100%.
Yep. So that's kind of like what I see is,
Exactly.
more and more wanting to understand the impact.
Exactly. Just getting much more granular. I'm just really trying to ensure that, the impact that the organizations or yourself is trying to make is actually happening. So really asking those harder, deeper questions, really just wanting more transparency across the board with all of these numbers, for example, to ensure that, yes, like that senior, like you mentioned, that we're feeding a meal to, for example, were they a senior that was actually in need versus a senior that wasn't in need? Now, do they have the resources to get meals continuously if they are in need, or is this just a one-time ad hoc thing? How can we make not only that impact, but sustainable impact for this constituents that we're looking to change? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That creating that sustainability so it can happen over and over again, and we can take it to greater scale.
Exactly.
So that we can help more people be sustainable or sustain in their lives. Oh my gosh. Yes. So Brandon, so let's talk about what, again, your experience, you just know this stuff so well, and I could just
so do you, Dr. Geneva. So do you. We can be talking all day.
We have a great time,
right?
So we've talked about how you can feel good by giving back. Yeah. You helped us learn about the helper's high, and you explained that to us about how there actually is a physiological reaction to, helping somebody.
Yeah.
So what would what are the top ways that an individual can, and then maybe I'll ask you about a small business.
Yeah.
But, and you've given us tips along the way, but if we were just to focus on the ways an individual can discover how they can make a difference. I'm just, a person, I've got some skills, I've got some talents, and I want to make a difference in my community. And I'm assuming there's more and more people asking that, particularly given the times we're living in. Everything from Black Lives Matter to the whole movement of wanting to be more involved, to the younger generation coming up. People are wanting to be active.
Yeah, and being catalysts of change. Yeah.
What are some of the best ways to get active so that you can feel good?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like I mentioned, it could be as small as kind of just, volunteering for a local organization to as big as galvanizing a team of your colleagues, friends, and workers to do strategic support for organizations, for example. I feel like it really just stems down to really understanding what your assets are personally, whether it is your time, your money, for example, financially, for instance, or your network. Those are the three big things that really you can leverage and amplify to really do good, for example, but also your intellect, your insight. You can either be working and supporting an organization whose mission really aligns with what you value, or you may see that there isn't any innovative way or tactic out there or solution that's really amplifying the impact you want to see. And that's when you start making your own organizations or innovating your own ideas to really create new tactics in order to challenge just these societal problems that you want to make a difference for. But actually, it was, I think, Dr. Bruce Weinstein, who's an ethics expert, said that even just the smallest, minuscule aspects of altruism, even if it's just opening the door for somebody else or just smiling at somebody throughout your day, really just makes individuals more intensely satisfied throughout their life. So really just incorporating just all these little means of just doing good, even outside of just directly supporting organization. Things like I said, just as simply as smiling at somebody, just really just those small little things really not only make other people generate satisfaction, happiness in those people, but generate happiness within yourself as well.
I love it. And I love how you took us from, well, do an inventory, your own personal assessment of your skills and talents and where they might be helpful. Look at, what's going on in your community and figure out ways you can align, et cetera. And if you can't find something, create it.
Yep.
You can create that organization. You can create that project. You can create that movement.
Exactly.
You can do it yourself. And then you gave probably one of my favorite pieces of advice. And that is, be the change that you want to be, that you want to see. Look in the mirror and be that change.
Exactly.
And just be kind. Say hello, smile, open the door for someone. Help that young person that you see in your church who perhaps is struggling with reading, or ask a young person. I know when I grew up, Brandon, I often talk about, I used to think it was a conspiracy among all the adults because I used to think they used to go somewhere and meet on me and my sister because they knew everything about me. They asked endless questions. They always gave me advice. And they were always in my business, And it was later on that I realized that it was just a community of caring adults, who had expectations about me and about all the children in the neighborhood, who communicated that you understood it was the values that they have, that they expected me to do great things and to be kind and caring. And they modeled that. And so walking down the street and saying good morning can make you feel good.
Exactly.
And often we don't think about those little things that matter.
Definitely. And even back to even like data and research, for example, there was many studies that even show that these just small acts of kindness, for example, not only help with happiness, but also your mental health. Does it show that individuals who also just volunteered more or who thought themselves as more altruistic just had decreased depression as well? So it really just shows that you can have just significant impact on your health, for example, your mental health, just by doing good and just by being altruistic in your daily life.
Yes. Well, Brandon Parks, you have just been such an inspiration, and this conversation, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. And as we wind down, I'd like to ask you, what do you want to leave us with? What would you like to say to our many folk who are listening live, watching us live, and for those on the replay? What is it that you would like to say to us to inspire us to create positive social impact?
Definitely. So I'm going to bring it back to one of my main OGs, Martin Luther King Jr., and not only have a statement to anybody who's listening, but almost another question for you. And really just looking in the mirror and asking yourself and saying, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Really looking in the mirror and seeing, what are you doing for others? What is the change you want to make? And how are you going after it right now to make that change you want to see in the world?
Love it. I'm going to have you back, and we're going to
definitely call me, meet me. You know how to reach me, Dr. Geneva.
Yes, I do. I'm so glad. And then maybe there's some things that we can do together, and because we're both in the business of trying to create this positive social impact.
Exactly.
And you have such a wealth of knowledge, and I love to see this young, new, fresh leadership. You're going to be making incredible change. You are making incredible
thank you, Dr. Geneva. Appreciate it.
And I think one of the reasons that I just love the conversation and hearing from you is because I think the gems and the inspiration and the practical advice you give us and strategies work for any age.
Yep, definitely.
Because we can make impact at any age,
At
right?
at any age. Yep.
It's a good thing. Well, Brandon, thank you so much. And
Thank you
we'll
so
be
much for
back
having
to
me.
you soon.
Will
Thank you.
do.
And how, Brandon, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah,
If they
definitely.
want to. So if you're, if you work in a corporation, or if you're an entrepreneur or a small business and you want to learn more, Brandon's in the business of helping you align your
100%.
business goals with philanthropy and for your do good goals.
Yep. You can definitely reach us at looking at our website at parksphilanthropy.com, or feel free to email me directly at brandon@parksphilanthropy.com.
Fantastic, Brandon. Thank you so much for
Thank
all
you.
you do. Keep doing it, and we'll be back
You as
together
well,
with
Dr.
you
Geneva.
soon.
Hopefully I'll talk
Thank
to you
you. Just
soon.
live it. Thank
Take
you.
care.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. It is just so wonderful to see this energy, the experience, the passion, all about, trying to feel good. And, I believe in that: look good, feel good, do good. Because if you do look good, and that isn't just the outer, that really is about that confidence inside of you that oozes out and gives you an aura of energy, of passion, and that in fact you own the room. And when you feel good, as Brandon was saying, even by simple acts of kindness, taking care of your health, being balanced. And when you're in that sphere of looking and feeling good, you can in fact do good. And one of the ways that you can feel good by doing good is finding out how to create the social impact, whether it's with a young child, one child. In my career, I would run into people who were volunteering and work with, who would say to me sometimes, be very, understandably frustrated and feel, oh, the problems are so big. They're so enormous. There's so much to do. And yes, that's true. There's a lot out there. We could spend every second of the day trying to fix things and work with people and try to change the world. But I don't know if you've ever experienced the light in the eyes of one child or one person who you were kind to, or you helped, or you gave a piece of advice that changed their lives. Because we never know when we're changing lives. And that's why this doing good, I think, is always about being positive, understanding that you are always a role model and that people are watching you, particularly children. And it's good to want to create a new world, to create that positivism that can happen. And today's conversation, I thought, was just some great advice about how we can feel good at the same time we're helping others. I hope you'll continue to join us here. I'm just delighted that I'm now bringing this podcast, Ignite to Impact, live, because it is the best place for conversations to inspire a generation of leaders at any age. Just live it, and I'll see you the next time.
Ignite to Impact.